Howdy there, I'm Deborah Perez. I'm the Secondary ELAR Coordinator. I wanted to create this video to share a few features that are available through our interactive flowchart that will be used to quickly and accurately score short answer responses. The first thing that you should have access to is the PowerPoint presentation called Scoring Short Answers, the Interactive Flowchart. The next thing that you want to do after you open the document is go to Slideshow and begin a new slideshow from the beginning. The features of this interactive flowchart will only work if you are in a slideshow mode. So here's how this PowerPoint interactive flowchart works. Each element of the short answer response is titled at the top of the slide. Then you are given a set of questions to consider anytime you're looking at that specific element. If the response is able to answer yes to all of those questions, you will click on the yes. If the response does not showcase any one of those questions or elements, then you will click on no. And the idea behind this flowchart is by the time you're done interacting with the yeses and the nos, you'll get a very clear, a quick, and a very accurate score point that will be associated with that specific response. Other cool features with this presentation is that anytime you're confused about what a certain element is, you have several features embedded within the presentation to help you more specifically align yourself with the elements. For example, if I take my cursor and just hover over certain elements or graphics, I get some more specific definitions or information about what I'm looking for. What is idea? Idea is specifically considering the idea in the direct answer. If I have additional questions, I can hover over the question mark. The idea is the most important aspect of the response. Make sure it doesn't simply echo the text. And just in case I don't remember what the yes and the no mean, I can hover over it and it will tell me, click here if you answered yes to all the questions, or click here if you answered no to any of the questions. Then your score will be showed. So let's say that you're looking at one short answer response. You're looking at the first and most important element, which is the idea or the answer from the specific question in the short answer. Is it present? Does it answer the question? Is it a reasonable interpretation that one could make within the text? If the answer is no, that short answer automatically receives a 0. It does not matter if the student provided text evidence or explanation or any other wording in their response. If he or she did not address the idea specifically, the highest score this response will get is a 0. So, as soon as you hit a no with any of the slides, you'll automatically get the score point. I want to show you a few buttons that you have available. The first button, if you hover over, will tell you that you can actually return to the previous slide. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you want to reconsider your response. So you will click on that one. And it takes you back to where you originally were. Let's say, however, you're set with your score response score of a 0 and you're ready to move on to your next short answer response. Then you will click on the home button that says click here to start from the beginning again. Once I click on it, I am starting from the beginning. In this case, this happens to be the beginning slide. Let's say another response that you're reading, the student does have an idea presented, it does directly answer the question, and it is a reasonable and specific interpretation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on yes, because the student was able to provide evidence of all 3 questions within the response. When I do that, it's going to take me to my next element. I am now going to consider the evidence. What do I mean by evidence? If I hover over, it will tell you a couple of things about evidence and specifics about what it means to have textual evidence. The questions basically mean, is it present? Is it relevant? And does it avoid general references, manipulation, and partiality of the text? If the answer is no, Perhaps they don't have specific evidence. Perhaps they took quotes out of context. Perhaps the evidence doesn't specifically match the idea or the answer, so therefore it is not relevant. Once they click on no, it provides you with a score of. There is no more negotiation. There is no further that this score can actually go if the evidence is not specific and relevant and present and avoiding all the other features. But let's say you want to go back and consider it. You will click on return to previous slide. If you click on yes, it'll take you to the next step of the flowchart, the explanation. Is the idea and the text connection explained? What does that mean? Explanations can be found before or after the text evidence, and anytime you hover over specific elements of the slide, you'll get additional information that you may or may not need. Let's say the student did provide textual evidence, but maybe there isn't an explanation of how the text evidence is connected to their response, or there isn't any elaboration of the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and click no. The highest score that response could gain is a 1. So let's say this is a score you decided. You want to go back to the beginning so that you can start a new set or a new response. So I'm going to click on my home button, and it's going to take me back to the beginning. So what I want to do now is go ahead and look at another short answer response. And let's say this short answer response did have a response to the prompt that was present. It did directly answer the question. It was a specific and reasonable interpretation, so I'm going to click on yes. Let's say that same short answer response you're looking at, they have textual evidence that is present, textual evidence that specifically relates to the idea, so it is relevant, and it does avoid general references, manipulation, or partiality within the text. So I'm going to click on yes. The explanation is there, and the reader is able to see how the idea and the text connections are made. So I'm going to click on yes. Now I'm looking at my last element, which is the connection phase. This is the trickiest part. This is a part where you really have to see if the idea and the connections that were made are really addressing other features of the text or the complexities within the text. If you, again, want to get a clearer understanding of this element, hover over certain elements. This one specifically says, how well, if any, did the student make connections across the entire piece? If I go to the question mark, it reads, this component asks students to make other literary connections about the idea. It creates a deeper analysis on how that answer and evidence relates to something bigger in the text. The answer is either a yes, there were connections that were made across the text, or a no. It is simply a very good response that has a good idea, great textual evidence, and a solid explanation. If it doesn't move beyond that phase, however, it does not reach the connection phase, I'm going to go ahead and click no. Once I do that, it tells me what my response is going to be. In this case, it's a score of 2. Once again, you have the option to go back and make up your mind again. Let's say you do feel that the response does cover the complexities of the text. Maybe it alludes to literary elements and how they relate to the question that are being addressed within that specific element of the text. So I'm going to click yes, and at that point you get your score response of a 3. The best thing about this interactive flow is that you can't mess it up. You can play with it, you can figure out, you can create scenarios yourself, you can allow students to actually use it within the classroom, maybe have them score their own short answer responses as you work through this interactive flowchart. This interactive flowchart is really just that, the interactive component of the handout that you should already have in front of you, but it just kind of makes it a little bit more user-friendly. And it allows you to use it as an instructional tool in the classroom as well. So the best advice I can give you is simply to take this PowerPoint, present a slideshow and start playing with it and see if it helps you in scoring those short answer responses, not just for your students, but yourself as well. I do want to remind you that as I created this interactive flowchart or the handout that you may have, all of these elements were specifically taken from the rubric and from the exemplar responses that are found through the TEA website. So more often than not, this interactive flowchart will actually help you get more accurate scores when you're analyzing your students' short answer responses. So I'm hoping that this resource that was developed for you is helpful and can actually help you more quickly and accurately score short answer responses, especially with the DBA coming up. Thank you and have a good day.